Second short. You know why I'm here.
And we are live. We're filming on Tuesday, October 13th. This will drop on the 15th. So we're going to cover the NBA first. I think that was NFL, but who cares, you know? The Lakers win the chip, which is awesome because I got to see my favorite player of all time win the championship. LeBron has 4 rings, 4 finals MVPs, 4 regular MVPs. He's going to retire as the all-time leading scorer in NBA history. He's he's definitely the greatest basketball player of all time. Like, overall basketball player, ignoring accolades, ignoring, like, whatever. He's the greatest complete basketball player of all time. No questions about it. Jimmy Butler had himself the best finals he could have possibly had while losing. I've watched LeBron lose 6 finals, which sucks. And nobody's had a better finals than Jimmy Butler while losing, in my opinion. So if I had to give, like, a finals LeBron award, which is like the MVP that didn't really win, should get MVP, but not really, it's Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler is more than definitely deserved of his contract. He's deserved. He came out today and said he was a decent player. He said, "What did you find out about yourself in the bubble?" And he said, "I'm a decent player."
Bruh.
No, Jimmy, you're a superstar. Jimmy's. I said at the beginning of the season. I said at the middle of the season. Jimmy Butler is a top 10 player in the NBA. He does everything great. He's a dog. I love Jimmy Butler. I think the Heat are definitely going to be in the finals next year because Milwaukee can't compete with them. And I think that if LeBron doesn't make it to the finals next year, that the Heat are going to be champions. And I think in the 4 years that Jimmy is on the Heat, he will win a championship. I think that honestly the Lakers were terrifying. They scared me through game 5 and 6. They showed that they definitely need more depth. Danny Green missed that. You know what? I'm not even going to talk about it because he's going to upset me. Danny Green missed 3, Markieff turning it over out of bounds. I cried. I'm going to say it right here. I cried. Like, everybody left my house that day, and I cried. I was so upset. The Lakers need more depth. They need players who can do everything. Like, you get all these specialty players, and you don't know how to use them because if they're not hitting and if they're not doing what they're good at, then they're not good at anything else. And it's just, you can't win championships. They won a championship like that, but they can't be consistent with that. So I feel like the Lakers definitely need more depth than what they have. I think they'll work on that in the offseason. And speaking of Lakers in the offseason, I think AD is going to sign to be a Laker for life. I think AD is going to sign a max contract with LA. If not a max contract, then right below the max contract because he's not ever leaving. He said it. He was like, I'm going to follow him to 9 more finals. AD is so happy with LA. He's happy being LeBron's teammate. I think he's going to sign and be there forever. The Heat will run the East until Jimmy Butler leaves. I don't think the Bucks or the Celtics can beat the Heat in a 7-game series. I feel like the Heat are they have the most depth in the NBA right now. Like, if you were to take their roster top to bottom, nobody's better than the Heat. But when you have guys like LeBron and AD who are LeBron's the greatest of all time, still the greatest player in the world, but AD is a top 5 player in the NBA. When you have 2 of the top 5 players in the world, you're not going to win. Like, the Heat have all the pieces to win a championship, but they ran into LA. And I feel like that's just where they're kind of going to lie over the next couple of years. But honestly, they're going to run the East until Jimmy decides to leave, which I think he signed a 4-year contract, and this was the first year, so they got 3 more years with Jimmy. I think they're going to be in the finals. I think the Lakers versus the Heat will be the new Lakers-Celtics. Like, I think that for the next 4 years, everybody should expect to see the Lakers and the Heat in the finals because the Heat cruise through everybody in the East handily, and they're only going to get better. They've got young players. They've got guys who can do everything from every position. Bam Adebayo is one of the most dynamic players in the league. I think that the Heat will make 4 straight finals, and they might win one. I think they're going to win one. But, yeah. Speaking of the Heat, Duncan Robinson is, I hate to say that it's bias. Like, recency bias is making me mad because I want to believe that Steph Curry and Klay Thompson are, like, the best 3-point shooters of all time. But I don't think I've seen anybody shoot the 3-ball like Duncan Robinson. I think every time Duncan Robinson let off a shot this year, I thought that it was an automatic 3 points. I've never thought that about Curry. I've never thought that about Thompson. I love Curry and Clay. I love them. I hate that they beat LeBron. I hate that the Warriors got KD and did what they did. But I love Curry and Clay. High character guys. They love the game of basketball. They play well. They're great at everything, really. But they're really good at shooting the three ball. They're probably the two best to ever do it. But when I look at Duncan Robinson shoot, I automatically think it's going in. I've never felt that about a player, and I think he's going to terrorize teams forever. I think the Heat, honestly, whoever's in the scouting department for the Heat deserves a raise, because you got Kendrick Nunn undrafted, you got Duncan Robinson undrafted, you got Tyler Hero at 13, you got Bam Adebayo I think at like 11 or 12, 13, somewhere around there in the middle of the draft. I think whoever's in the scouting department, and Pat Riley, of course, has a huge part to play. I think all of those guys deserve a raise. I think all of those guys deserve more credit than what they deserve, or than what they're getting. And the Heat are a great team. They're going to run the East for as long as Jimmy's there.
Because I spit hot fire.
Well, since it was only 2 teams playing, that was it for the NBA. Let's move on to the NFL. Bum, 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 bum. I love that. I love it every time. So we're going to start with Dan Quinn. I've been calling for your job, Dan Quinn. All 4 weeks, or 3 weeks I've been doing this podcast, I've been calling for your job, Dan Quinn. And finally, after you go 0-5, you get fired hours after the game. Dan Quinn is out of Atlanta. They fired their general manager, which, whatever, I guess when you hire a general manager and a coach, they're kind of a pair. But Atlanta fired Dan Quinn. I think that's the best move they could have made. All they're going to do is go up. They hit rock bottom. And when you hit rock bottom, the only way to go is up. And I think they're going to do that. I think they're going to start rebuilding. They're going to worry about the draft because they're not winning many games this year. I think Matt Ryan is on his way out. Matt Ryan was a Dan Quinn guy, I think. And I feel like without Dan Quinn, Matt Ryan's not going to be as happy. I think Matt Ryan's not going to show the flashes that he used to. I think Matt Ryan's out. But this week made me realize that Jacksonville's still rebuilding. I was kind of on there. I'm from Jacksonville a little bit. I grew up in Jacksonville for a couple years, and I love the Jaguars. So I think when they won Week 1 big, I was on their hype train a little bit, and although they play great every week they're in it. Every week they have that spark that I feel like every great team has. And Gardner Minshew's a stud, but this week made me realize that at 1-4, Jacksonville's still rebuilding, and I feel like their fan base has a little way to go. But be hopeful, Jacksonville, because like I said, you guys got to study Gardner Minshew. You guys are just gonna get better, and everything's gonna be on the up and up soon. This week also made me realize that Cincinnati, although Joe B is a stud and playing great, Cincinnati still needs O-line help. To be completely honest, they're the worst O-line in football. Last year was the Cardinals. The year before was the Cardinals. Everybody was completely against the Cardinals O-line. They squash it, get new people. The Cardinals were the worst O-line I've ever seen. This year's Cincinnati O-line needs help sooner rather than later, because you got Joe Burrow back there, and Joe Burrow's a stud. Joe Burrow's going to do what he does, and he's just going to get better every single year, and he's your franchise quarterback. I genuinely believe that Joe Burrow is that guy. So since he needs that O-line help fast, because he's on track to get sacked 70 times this year. And I think Andrew Luck's career high in sacks was somewhere around 45, 48. So I don't want to see what happened to Andrew Luck, where he had to retire early due to injuries and all of these things. I don't want to see that happen to Joe Burrow. So I want Cincinnati to realize that they need an O-line fast and work on that now. Because I love Joe Burrow. I love Joe Burrow. Something came out yesterday on Monday. I was at dinner with my mom, and I started laughing, and my mom was like, "What are you laughing about?" I looked at the TV, and I said, Adam Gase said he'll consider giving up play calling. My boy, Adam, you went 10-6 with the Dolphins. I have a lot of respect for you. But last year with the Jets, you were dead last in total offense. This year with the Jets, you're 4th to last in total offense. You should have given up play calling duties Week 6 of 2019. It's about to be 2021. So please, Adam, please, give up play calling, man. Don't consider it. Do it. Because you guys, you suck. Not even you guys. Your team's great. Your roster, top to bottom, is good. You are an absolute trash player. You're terrible. You're not good at calling plays. You're barely good at developing quarterbacks. You got lucky with Peyton Manning. I feel like everybody was like, oh, he developed Peyton. No, Peyton Manning's amazing. Peyton Manning's the greatest pure quarterback of all time. I know greatest of all time, Joe Montana, Tom Brady, they have all those rings, all those championships, blah, blah, blah. But nobody ever played quarterback better than Peyton Manning. And I feel like Adam Gase got a lot of credit for that. And he shouldn't, because Peyton Manning was going to be great anyway. So everybody was on the Adam Gase hype train. You developed Peyton Manning? No, you didn't develop Peyton Manning. You're an average offensive coordinator. You got blessed with a couple head coaching positions. Please, Adam, realize that you're not good at what you're doing.
Bruh.
And that you need to step down. You need to run practices. You need to game manage. But other than that, you have coaches in place to make these decisions. And the fact that you said, I'm going to consider it is blasphemous. It doesn't make sense to me. Because the numbers are there. Adam Gase should have stopped a long time ago. So the fact that he's willing to just look at the numbers and look at his performance and not even take responsibility and say that he'll consider it it shows his character, really. And it you know what? I don't have to say anything else about it.
You cannot talk.
Adam Gase is the worst head coach in football. Adam Gase is the worst head coach in football. He's a good offensive coordinator, I guess, but he's not meant to be a head coach. And I think him saying that he'll consider is an embarrassment. It's an embarrassment for the Jets, who are a historic franchise. I hate the Jets, but I know that they're one of the premier franchises in football. You're not gonna come out of New York. You're not gonna come out of the Mecca and not be one of the greatest teams. Nobody hates the Jets other than the people in their division, because it's the Mecca. It's New York. Everybody hates Dallas. Not everybody hates New York. The Jets are supposed to be that franchise that people look up to, and they're not, because their owners doesn't make good decisions. Their owner does not make a decision. Their general manager does not draft the players he should draft, and they hire head coaches who don't care. Rex Ryan was a great head coach. Did he fall off? Yes. But that was the last head coach that they had that genuinely cared. And if you're going to be a premier organization, you cannot have people at the top. You cannot hire people to show these players what to do if they're just not going to care.
You're going to learn today.
And Adam Gase doesn't care. Anyway, off that. New Orleans is still trash. I don't care what they did on Monday. You came back versus a rookie quarterback, a young head coach, a young defense. I don't care what you did, New Orleans. You're trash. Drew Brees, you're old. You're done. Michael Thomas, you're a diva. Receivers in the NFL are usually divas, but Michael Thomas got benched for a Monday Night Football game due to an altercation with a teammate in practice. You know that your team is coming off a loss. You know that your team needs to win this game. You know that you're the best player on the team, and you're going to get in a fight in practice?
Bruh.
In practice, I don't mean to sound like AI, but in practice, you're going to get into a fight. You're not even going to fight somebody that you don't know? You're not even going to wait till game day to get suspended? You had to get benched by your own head coach for being a hothead in practice. Man, New Orleans got bigger issues than the quarterback. And I feel like Drew Brees is on his way out. I love Drew Brees. Great guy. Great quarterback. Not anymore. I think he's on his way out. But nothing will set to me bigger than Michael Thomas getting benched for Monday Night Football. That's how much of a problem that New Orleans has, that they had to tell their best player, by far, that he can't play. That's a problem to me. That's high school. That's like, oh, your GPA is not good enough. You got to sit this game until you get your test scores up. This shouldn't be happening. And for it to be happening just tells me the type of organization that the Saints have, and it's not good, which is why they've only won one Super Bowl with one of the greatest quarterbacks of his generation, with one of the best head coaches of their generation. It shows me who they are, and I don't like who they are. I think that they're always going to be that organization that looks amazing, but they're a polished, you know what? They're a polished piece of shit. They're like if you literally took a turd out of the toilet, covered it in rhinestones, made it pretty, and then sold it.
That's according to the Bible.
To the Bible. Thanks, Mark. Anyway, I'm tired of talking about New Orleans. The Chargers will be scary in the very near future. I think they struck gold at number 6 with Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert, if Joe Burrow wasn't playing, if Joe Burrow didn't have the season he had, and Tua didn't have the season he had 2 years ago, I feel like Justin Herbert would have been the number 1 pick easily. He had a great career at Oregon. Very good pro-style quarterback. Tall, can throw the ball well. I just spit, my bad. Very, very smart at the game of football. And when you're talking about great attributes of a quarterback, you look at people like Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, Drew Brees, Aaron Rodgers, Joe Montana, Steve Young. They all can throw the football well. They all have a little bit of athleticism to be able to escape the pocket, to be able to step up, to have that awareness, to know when you're in danger. And they all come up in big plays. Like they all make big plays. And I think the Chargers, within the next 5 years, will be they will be feared by the league. There will be Super Bowl contenders. I think they're in the same division as the Chiefs, and the Chiefs know what's coming. Patrick Mahomes, I think, is only 24, 25, and he knows what's coming. The Chargers will be nasty. Arizona kind of let me down. They played New York and only won by 20. And, you know, it's the NFL, so saying they only won by 20 is like, that's crazy. Like, in the NFL, winning by 20 is a blowout. In college, winning by 20 is you suck. But Arizona only won by 20 versus the Jets. And the Jets this is the worst team in the league. They're the worst run team in the league. I think now that Atlanta fired their coach, now it's the Jets. But they're the worst run team in the league, worst coach team in the league. They have a good roster at best, but they definitely should have been in that game. And the fact that they lost by 20 shows that they're trash. And the fact that Arizona didn't capitalize and make and embarrass them even more is like, it shows me that Arizona, although I'm still on the Kyler hype train. I love Kyler Murray. Arizona still has some hurdles to overcome. They still got some building blocks that they need to find. And they'll be fine. But Arizona let me down this week versus the Jets. Baltimore is lackluster on offense. I never thought I'd be saying that about the most explosive player in the league in Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson can beat you with his arm in the pocket. Lamar Jackson can beat you with his legs outside the pocket. And I never thought that I'd be saying that their offense is lackluster. And you want to know why their offense is lackluster? Because they don't have a number 1 guy. Like their tight end, I'm drawing to a blank to his name, forgive me. Their tight end is amazing. Their quarterback's amazing. Running backs, like the running back team that they have is good. And they should be a contender. But if you don't have that number 1 guy on the outside, that one guy that you can look at a corner and be like, I know that you're the best corner on this team, but my guy can still beat you one-on-one. If you don't have that, you're not going to go far. Lamar Jackson doesn't have somebody that he can look to and know for sure that they're going to make a play. They got Hollywood Brown, great down the field guy. But they don't have a complete receiver that Lamar Jackson has complete and utter trust in. And until they figure that out, Baltimore is just going to be lackluster and going to be that team that almost gets there but never got there. And they need that number 1 guy. So I'm going to talk about Miami, which brings me into my flavorful 5 of last week. I went 1-4 last week in the flavorful 5, which kind of hurt me. The Dolphins beat the 49ers by a lot. Killed them. Not even close. Sorry, Mark. Trash can Cisco. They're not making the playoffs this year. For all of you people in San Francisco that think that the 49ers are going to win that division again, the hardest division in football with the Seahawks, Rams, and Cardinals, if you really think you're winning that division again, you're insane.
Okay.
I think that Jimmy Garoppolo is not the answer, and you paid him so much money. You got rid of guys on the defensive line that helped you get to the that you needed to get to the Super Bowl last year. You just didn't care. You didn't pay them. Let them leave. Let them walk. Like if you didn't need them again. That's insane to me. I think the general manager of the 49ers is a great general manager. I truly think he is. He did a great team. He did a great job rebuilding this team. But he has made some mistakes in thinking that he doesn't need certain players in order to win. Last year, you had one of the best pass rushes in the league, and you let players walk off that D-line because you didn't want to pay them, because you thought guys on the offensive side of the ball were more valuable. And your offense wasn't winning you games last year, bro. It was your defense. Your defense carried you last year. And this year, when your defense is doing bad due to injury and due to you not re-signing players, you're going to lose games. You're losing more games this year than you did last year for sure. Probably doubling, if not tripling, your loss total of last year. I think they went 13-3 last year. If they finish with 9 losses, they'll be lucky. If they go 7-9, middle of the pack, they'll be lucky this year because Jimmy Garoppolo is not the answer. He's not what they need. That power running game is not what it was last year. Their defense is not what it was last year. And I think Kyle Shanahan knows that and is panicking. So I honestly don't feel sympathy for San Francisco. I don't feel sympathy at all. You cut Colin Kaepernick. So happens. Miami figured it out on offense. I don't know if this is me being a Dolphins fan and, every year is our year until it's not, just like the Cowboys. But Miami killed Trash Can Cisco. Like, it wasn't even close. Jimmy Garoppolo got benched at the half in order to protect him, is what Kyle Shanahan said. Which basically means that the offensive line was playing so bad that you wanted to get your franchise quarterback, who you overpaid, out of that game to protect him.
Bruh.
That's what Kyle Shanahan said at the end of the game. Which is, man, that's bullshit. That's bullshit. I think that that's not good at all. The fact that that's their excuse, no, bro, he's just not good. He's not good at quarterback. You folded. Admit the fact that you overpaid him, move on, and then figure it out. But don't say you pulled him to protect him. The Giants fell apart late. The Giants showed their youth, and they were in it all the way until, we'll get into it later, but until Dak got hurt, they were in it. They were winning. And I think that the switch at quarterback kind of changed momentum. Not saying that Andy Dalton's better than Dak Prescott, because he's not. But you have a new offense with Andy Dalton. And the Giants weren't prepared for that new offense with Andy Dalton. And they just showed their youth. They showed their youth. They fell apart. They lost that game. Shouldn't have lost that game. But they lost that game to the Cowboys. Really sad. But the Cowboys were saved. The Cowboys received a blessing from Andy Dalton and Michael Gallup. I think Michael Gallup made 2 of the best catches he could have possibly made in his career in that game versus the Giants. Back-to-back plays, great catches, really saved, honestly, the season. Because the NFC least is the worst division in football. The worst division. I think they have a combined 3 wins between the total, like all 4 teams. I think have 3 or 4 wins combined. Like, it's the worst division of football. The Cowboys are gonna host a playoff game at probably 6-10. That's crazy. They're gonna host they're probably gonna host Chicago, because Green Bay is going to win that division. So Chicago, who's a great defensive team, who's figuring it out on offense, who's doing all the right things to be in the playoffs, is going to have to go to Dallas to play a playoff game. And that's ridiculous. The NFC least should not have a home playoff game. I think the NFL should write in that if you're not over 500, you don't get a home playoff game. No matter if you won your division, no matter if you're not in the wild card, that wild card team that has a better record than you should get a home playoff game. That's just what it is. That's what it should be. But it's not. And that breaks my heart that the Cowboys are really going to host a playoff game. And on to Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott is not a top 5 quarterback in any sense. Of doesn't deserve the money that he wants, but he's still a great player. He's a great player, great quarterback, and even more importantly, at the quarterback position, he's a great leader. You need a leader at quarterback, and there's not many better leaders than Dak Prescott. Doesn't have the arm talent that Patrick Mahomes has, doesn't have the escapability that Russell Wilson has, but he's a leader, and you need that at quarterback. So for him to go down with that injury just really solidifies to me that the Cowboys are a dumpster fire under Jerry Jones and Stephen Jones. I think they owe Dak Prescott because Dak Prescott was playing under the franchise tag, or is playing under the franchise tag, and got hurt in the most gruesome of ways. And I think they just owe him. Like, granted, nobody owes anything in this world. And at the end of the day, if you don't produce on the field, you don't get paid. But they owe Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott played his heart out for your team, played his heart out to earn his money. And honestly, he would have earned that money. He would have earned $35. I really do believe he would have earned his $35 million that they probably would have gone to give him. So I feel like you should just pay him that anyway. He's going to come back next season and still be great. I genuinely believe that. Still not going to be a top 5 quarterback, but he's still going to be the Cowboys franchise quarterback. And it's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking to watch a player go down like that. It really is. Kansas City will bounce back. I think they got trampled by Las Vegas, which will be a playoff team. Don't get me wrong. Las Vegas will be a playoff team. They will be a contender in the near future. Derek Carr's going to figure it out with John Gruden. They're going to get it along soon enough. Las Vegas is going to do it. Las Vegas will be in contention. But Kansas City will bounce back, and the defense will be better. Pittsburgh got the ugliest W I've seen in my life. Philadelphia is the most injury-riddled roster other than Denver. And when they're not injury-riddled, they're one of the worst rosters other than New York. And that's Giants or Jets. I don't even care. You can just fill in the blank on that one. But Philly almost beat Pittsburgh in the Battle of Pennsylvania. And that's terrifying because Pittsburgh is the way better team, way better coached team. So the fact that Pittsburgh is having struggles right now and an ugly W is off-putting at the least. Tom Brady is a worse quarterback than Jameis Winston. For all you Tampa Bay fans that said, oh, he threw 30 interceptions last year, 30 touchdowns, he was average at best, Jameis Winston is not the quarterback we needed. Tom Brady's not the quarterback you need either, bud.
Bruh.
Tom Brady's not that much better. Jameis Winston had way more arm strength. Jameis Winston had way more athleticism. He was just dumb. And Tom Brady is showing that in his old age, he doesn't have the arm strength. He doesn't have the escapability and the athleticism. And even worse, in his old age when you're supposed to be at your peak smartness, he's still making bonehead decisions and dumb plays. Tom Brady is not the answer that they need. Tampa Bay will be bad in the playoffs. And that's just what it is. Cleveland looked like a contender versus the Colts' number 1 defense. The number 1 defense in the world, Cleveland made look silly. Why? Because Cleveland has weapons. Cleveland is dangerous on offense. Dangerous is what Seattle is. Dangerous is what Cleveland is. We'll get to Seattle later. Phillip Rivers just don't got it no more. Phillip Rivers got paid for 2 years. I think at the end of the 2 years, he's retiring. Because Phillip Rivers is not a quarterback anymore. He's just an old dude that talks trash and throws a football. Kirk Cousins will not have a job after his contract with the Vikings is up. I think after his contract with the Vikings is up, he's done playing football. Nobody's going to sign him. He might be a backup somewhere, but he threw it straight to KJ Wright. I know KJ Wright made that great one-handed interceptions, but when I'm looking at that play, I'm looking at Kirk Cousins looking at a wide-open receiver and threw it straight to a linebacker. Wide-open receiver throws it straight to a line. He just doesn't have it. He doesn't have what it takes to be a franchise quarterback, and I think the Vikings realized that after last game when they lost to Seattle in an ugly one. And this just brings me to Seattle. Seattle is 5-0 for the first time in franchise history. Russell Wilson is the best player in football. Russ is going to Russ. I've said it all 3 weeks on the podcast. I'm going to say it now again. Russ is going to Russ. Russ for MVP. Russ is the best player in football. And when you have Russell Wilson, your defense can be trash. Your receivers and O-line can play bad. You're going to win games.
Because I spit hot
When
fire.
you have Russell Wilson in the fourth quarter and you're down, you're going to win. Because Russell Wilson does not lose. He doesn't lose. He's a winner. He's a born winner. When I look at Russell Wilson, I feel like I'm looking at Michael Jordan. Like, although I think LeBron is the greatest player of all time, Michael Jordan is the greatest winner of all time.
Okay.
Russell Wilson hates losing more than anybody on the planet. I think Russell Wilson knows exactly what to do to win, and he's good at that, and he will continue to be good at that because he's the best player in football right now. On to the UFC. The UFC, great card this weekend, a lot of finishes. It was Corey Sandhagen versus Marlon Moraes, and I had it Corey Sandhagen sub in round 1. It ended up being Corey Sandhagen knockout in round 2, which is absolutely wild because Marlon Moraes is the most dangerous dude in the division. He fought Aljamain Sterling a couple years ago and knocked Aljamain Sterling out with a knee that he didn't even mean to throw. He was throwing a kick. Aljamain shot in for a double, and he got hit with a knee out of nowhere and knocked him out. Marlon Moraes is dangerous. He's dangerous. And Corey Sandhagen made him look average. Corey Sandhagen went in there knowing he took a loss to Aljamain Sterling, knowing that he needs to come back, and he just absolutely obliterated Marlon Moraes. He proved what he needed to prove. And Corey Sandhagen, I don't want to say he's the future at bantamweight at 135 because Aljamain Sterling's still the best 135er in the world. But Corey Sandhagen is a bad man. Corey Sandhagen will continue to win, and he damn near might win a championship, win a belt. He might become champion of the world one day at 135. Edson Barbosa absolutely dominated Makwan Amirkhani to snap his 4-fight skid and to get his first W at 145. His first W at featherweight, went down from 155, lost to Dan Ige, which is a tough dude to lose to. Dan Ige is a tough guy. But when you take 4 losses in a row, your confidence has to be shaken. And he came in with something to prove, and he proved it. He absolutely dominated a top 15 guy in Makwan Amirkhani. I didn't expect it. Thought he was going to lose by UD. Won by UD after dropping Makwan multiple times, showing that he's the better striker, better guy on the ground, which is crazy because Makwan was supposed to submit him. So I'm happy for Edson Barbosa. I hope he gets his life on track. Hope he gets his career on track again. I don't think he could compete with the top dogs at 145, but I'm glad to see that he's still competing and doing well. Ben Rothwell got absolutely dominated by Marcin Tybura. Marcin Tybura is a great prospect at heavyweight, but I didn't think he was going to absolutely dominate Ben Rothwell. Ben Rothwell's face looked like it went through a wood chipper. which is awful because Ben Rothwell's been in some wars with some of the best guys to ever do it. So the fact that he's regressed that far to get dominated by a prospect, by somebody who still needs work and everybody acknowledges that that person still needs work, I think Rothwell should either leave the UFC where there's the toughest competition at heavyweight, or he should just retire. Because at the end of the day, you're still respected. You're still great. Wow, this one's a long one. That's crazy. I'm sorry I started ranting about the Cowboys. I don't even know what that is.
Okay.
But, yeah, I think Marcin's still got some work for sure, but I think he will be a great heavyweight. And Rothwell needs to start thinking about the next steps in his career. Topuria, Aspinall, Buckley, Breeze, and Daukus are all bright prospects. The UFC did a great job this card showing off their talent that they're developing. The UFC has received a lot of crap over the years for throwing people into the deep end that don't really deserve to be there. But I feel like this card, they really showed that their prospects, the people that they're developing, that they're doing a better job developing these people. All of those 5 guys that I just named are all in the future going to be title contenders. Buckley, though, might have the greatest knockout of all time. He threw a roundhouse kick. It got caught. And then off his only foot that he's standing on, decides to jump and kick somebody in the face. He pretty much just went to WWE. Like when a person fake throws a kick and fake catches a kick, and then the other person just spins off and pretends to hit them in the face and blah, blah. And it's great in the WWE. Everybody's excited. He did it in real life. In real life, in the middle of a fight where you could lose your life, he decided that he was going to have fun and just spin and kick him in the face. And that's Buckley has the brightest future of all the guys I just said. Buckley will be a problem. And that's one of the greatest knockouts I've ever seen. If you haven't watched it, go watch it, please. Because if you're not a UFC fan and you see Buckley do that, you're going to be a UFC fan. That's how great that knockout was. That you can turn haters into believers with something like that. So that's one of the greatest KOs I've ever seen. One of the greatest KOs of all time. The upcoming NFL, I have New England beating Denver handily. I think they're going to get Cam back. I think they're going to be better than what they were last week. And I think they're going to beat an injury-riddled Denver team. Tennessee's going to beat Houston. Cleveland's going to beat Pittsburgh. Baltimore's going to beat Philly. The Giants are going to beat Washington. Minnesota's going to beat Atlanta. Indianapolis is going to beat Cincinnati. They're going to bounce back and beat Cincinnati. Chicago is still going to be hot. They're going to beat Carolina. Miami still going to ride that momentum and beat the worst team in the league in the Jets.
Bruh.
LOL. The Green Bay will dominate Tampa Bay, to be completely honest. Green Bay, we'll get into it later, but after the Chiefs' defense showed me what they're capable of, after the Chiefs showed me what their defense is capable of, I think Green Bay is the most complete team in the league. I think Green Bay is the best team in the league, head to toe, roster for roster, and they're going to completely dominate Tampa Bay. The Rams are going to beat Trash Can Cisco handily. And my game of the week, which leads me into the flavorful 5 before I get into Monday Night Football. Detroit will beat Jacksonville in a great game. I think those two teams are going to score an 80 combined points. I think Detroit comes out on top just because they have the more experienced team. But that game's going to be amazing. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. I think both quarterbacks are going to show what they're capable of, but I got Detroit. The flavorful 5, though, I got Detroit over Jacksonville in a high-scoring 80-point game. The Korean Zombie will beat Brian Ortega. I do think that the Korean Zombie will beat Brian Ortega, but in the flavorful 5, I have Korean Zombie and Ortega will break the significant strike record for the UFC. I know over the years, I feel like every year it gets broken. I know it got broken in 2018 and 2019, and it's already been broken in 2020. But the significant strike record for a total fight will be broken by 2 guys that can take a lot of punishment, dish a lot of punishment, and are at the peak of their careers. On the next flavorful fight, I have Green Bay dominating Tampa Bay. I already talked about it. Green Bay is going to absolutely obliterate Tampa Bay. I got Cleveland getting big W over Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's defense is one of the best in the league. I think Cleveland's offense is gonna be silly. And last but not least, Thomas Almeida, one of the brightest prospects to ever enter the UFC. After he got knocked out by Cody Garbrandt, I think in 2016, he's been on the decline. And I think Martinez KOs Almeida in round 1. I think Martinez is real, and Almeida's just not. Almeida does not have what it takes to compete with those guys at 135. And Martinez is going to make him look dumb. But on to Monday Night Football. I got KC beating Buffalo. Kansas City's going to dominate. I think they feel like they have something to prove coming off that loss to Las Vegas. Their first loss in 10 months, 11 months almost. And they got something to prove. They're going to dominate. I got it 52-38 for a total of 90. In the second Monday Night Football game, we have Arizona versus Dallas. I feel like this is going to be an ugly game to watch. I really feel like they should have switched it and put Arizona Dallas the first game and KC Buffalo at the night game, because Arizona's going to get an ugly dub. I got it Arizona over Dallas all day, 24-20 for a total of 44, but that's not going to be a great game. That's just not going to be a good game. On to my top 10 NFL teams. I got it New England at 10, just because with Cam, they're a completely different team. They're more dynamic. I got Chicago, the Rams, Indianapolis, Cleveland at 6, which is shocking because they went 7-9 last year after a lot of high expectations. They have a lot of high expectations this year. I think they're meeting those expectations. They just beat the number 1 defense in the world. Cleveland at 6 is not bad. It's not bad at all. I think Colin Cowherd had them at 10. I think that's a little disrespectful. But Cleveland at 6 is perfect for me. I put Buffalo at 5. Now, they lost about 10 minutes before I started recording, but I still think they're one of the more complete teams in the NFL. Would I put them out of my top 5 now knowing that they lost to Tennessee? Yes. Tennessee's not in my top 10 this week just because I hadn't seen them play in a couple weeks. Tennessee is real. Next week they will be in the top 10. Buffalo will still be in the top 10. I got Buffalo at 5. Baltimore at 4. The Chiefs, who were my number 1 team last week, because of what the defense showed me, I have them at 3. I think the offense is still great. They're going to score a lot of points every game. But the defense is a liability for the big play. So I think that's why they're at 3. At 2-1, I had to flip a coin. Because although I think Green Bay, as I said earlier, is the greatest, is the most complete team in football, Seattle has Russell Wilson. When you have Russell Wilson, you're going to make me think who's the better team. Even though Green Bay has Aaron Rodgers, I don't care. Russell Wilson's better than Aaron Rodgers. And that's a fact. Green Bay has the better team, so I put them at 1. But Seattle's a close 2. I think Seattle 5-0, Green Bay 4-0, coming off a bye. Those are my top 2 teams in the league, and that's just what it is. Upcoming UFC is that we're going to close out. UFC Ortega versus Zombie. Not what I'm calling him for fun. His real name on the banner will be Korean Zombie. His real name is Chan Sung Jun, but because of his reputation, he's just known as the Korean Zombie, which is how I said earlier, how they're going to break the significant strike record. These two guys can take a lot and give even more. I think this is going to be a great fight. I think there's going to be a lot of damage, as I said earlier. It could be fight of the year. I got Zombie, if not by decision, by 5th round KO when Ortega can just take no more. I think these guys are just going to walk each other down. They're going to do everything in their power to knock each other out, and it's going to be an ugly fight to watch. Great fight, though. Honestly, this could be fight of the year, and I wouldn't even be surprised. Next, we got Kaitlin Chookagian versus Jessica Andrade is an interesting one because Chookagian's coming off a big W, to the sister of the champ at 125 in Valentina Shevchenko. Antonina Shevchenko is who she beat. Valentina's her sister, who's the greatest, one of the greatest female fighters of all time. I think she's right behind Amanda Nunes, but she beat her sister Antonina, who's a great kickboxer kickboxer in her own right. So Kaylin Chukagian's looking great. But Jessica Andrade is the scariest woman at 125, 135, 150, whatever weight class she's going to fight at. She's the scariest woman. She's got power in her hands. I think other than Amanda Nunes, she's the hardest hitting woman in the UFC. And she wins by KO. I got you. Almeida versus Martinez. I already talked about it. Almeida on the decline. Martinez is really showing what he can do. I think Martinez wins by KO handedly, easily. Claudio Silva versus James Krause. On the prelims, kind of upset me because James Krause is a respected veteran. The fact that he's on a prelim is kind of like how last week 2 weeks ago Carlos Condit was on the prelims. It really upset me. James Krause deserves more respect than that, but he's still going to lose. I think Claudio Silva is a great prospect. I think he's going to show that he's a great prospect. And, yeah, drive safe. Use your blinker. Don't let your dog poop on the sidewalk. Mark fell asleep, which is cool. But, yeah, that's it. We wrapping it up. Woo! Thanks, guys.
They know why I'm here.